Hi everyone, today we are going to learn HTML forms. Now in HTML, a form element is used to create a section of a web page that contains input controls such as text boxes, buttons, check boxes, radio buttons and drop down lists that allows the user to enter data and submit it to a server for processing. So we use the form element to create these forms, right? So basically it provides a kind of a mechanism to allow users to enter information into the web pages, okay? So when the user entered the information, it can be submitted to the server at the back end, and which in turn actually receives the data, and if there is some processing going in, it can be processed the data and it can generate back some responses to the users, right? So we use this form element to perform such tasks. So what are the possible responses from the form elements, right? So we can display information on a web page, right? So for example, we can display information such as like this, or we can add data to a databases, right? So if I fill these elements like name and my email address and my date of birth, and once I submit it, and it will go to kind of a database which sits in the back end. Or even I can actually send an email message. If I want to send a message, I can use a form element to fill the details of the email and send that email. So we can perform various tasks using a form element. Right, so there are two things that we need to learn when it comes to the forms. Okay, now forms first need to be filled by the client, right? So client usually request a web page containing a form, right? So we enter the URL, right? We type the URL and on the web browser, and then what will happen, server respond by sending the web page of the form as an HTML back to the client. And then what will happen, client fill the form, right, and press the submit button, and which in turn send the form data to the server. Now in the server there has to have a kind of a script sitting there to process that information, right? So that script need to be specified in our action form action attribute, right? So I'll come back to that bit later on. And then of course the server knows, okay, I need to use this action, whatever the script specified in the action attribute. So it will process the information accordingly. And then what will happen once that have done, the server respond by processing the data and then send the results back to the client. Okay, so that's basically what's happened in the forms once the forms fill and how the results being generated.